Hello, and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Cancun for the MSEM format. I'm Caillou, and today we're going to be watching the round 1 match between that damn Pipsqueak, who's on Heart Attack Control, which is a Sultai control deck which aims to generate lots of mana using the titular land, Heart of Zadina, and then kill your opponent with a large Torment of Hailfire-esque card. Meanwhile, their opponent, Fluffy Deathbringer, is playing blue-red Prowess Aggro, which aims to use a lot of cheap, some even zero-costing artifacts to trigger Prowess on a bunch of cheap Prowess creatures, and then use that to build up for large attacks that can kill as early as, I believe, turn 3. So far, though, we're not seeing much from either player. Pipsqueak played a Seek Prophecy, which is our format's premier cantrip. Meanwhile, on the other end of the table, a Sage's Ashes from Fluffy, which really isn't the turn 1 play you want, especially versus Pipsqueak's deck. You want, obviously, Fluffy's deck wants to go as fast as possible, but Pipsqueak has 3 main deck copies of Singularity's Grasp, which is a black-green X instant with destroy all creatures and I think it's creatures, artifacts, and enchantments with converted mana cost X or less. So incredibly powerful card, and it absolutely hoses Fluffy's deck. So Fluffy is going to play Whistled Dragons here. I don't think Pipsqueak has anything they can do in response. They might have an exit. Do they have exits in their deck? If they do, that's the only possible answer that they could have here. They could crack the Flooded Depths for a mountain. Ooh, and we're seeing some of those free spells right here. Ornate Incense and a Bogsworn Club. So Whistle Dragons gets pumped up to a 4-3. But yeah, Pip does have the exit, unfortunately. So cracks a fetch land. Exit is also another one of our format's premier removal spells. So this is looking pretty dire for Fluffy. They're down to 3 cards in hand. Meanwhile, Pip has a full clutch. And really the cards that Fluffy has on field are pretty bad. Of course, you can cycle Ornate Incense and Sage's Ashes for more, but still. So Pip playing Intrepid, grabbing Heart of Zadina from their library. So Intrepid is one of the cards from our newest set, Worlds Away, by Time Spiraled, otherwise known as Matt. It's an incredibly powerful, general mid-range piece, mainly because the ability to have 4 or more different lands is generally trivial, or differently named lands is generally trivial in MSEM due to its very deep card pool. So Intrepid is generally 3 mana, search your library for a land and put it into your hand, plus it's just occasionally it's always a 4/4 Flying Vigilance after the turn you play it. So Fluffy has double Storm Shaper Adept into playing a second Bogsworn Club from their hand. Pip was tapped out, so they had to take the 4. And this is a problem with 3-color decks in this format, is that even though Pip only took 4 damage last turn, they're down to 12 life because they took a further 4 damage from their own mana base because of how the shock fetches work. So Pip just playing a Heart of Zadina and then passing. This is good because they can now... Intrepid is now online, so it's a free blocker, and Pip could potentially have other interaction available. So Fluffy playing another Whistle Dragons. They're down to 2 cards in hand. Do they have any more Prowess Enablers? They don't, and they're just going to end because they don't have an answer for this Intrepid. That's definitely a problem. Of course, I think more so than other aggro decks, Prowess Aggro can just Alpha Strike out of nowhere, so waiting around isn't as bad, but it still gives Pip a chance to draw into more answers. Okay, Pip playing a Precursor Sanctum. Interesting. Wow, this is a really insanely powerful card. I didn't know this existed. The Wanderlust is essentially free. So it basically just gives you a free card on a land. Yeah, that's insanely powerful. That kind of card advantage on a land and for so cheap is practically unheard of, even in MSEM. But Way, or Worlds Away, did bring a lot of powerful cards with it to support Wander or powerful new lands such as Heart of Sedina. So, Fluffy is going to play Mysterious Coffer. This pumps everything up, so Pip is facing down 7 damage here if they don't have a response. In response, Singularity's Grasp X equals 2. Oh no. So you're going to cast the card. Unraveling. So they're going to cast the Unraveling off Precursor Sanctum and counter the Mysterious Coffer. I feel like that was the wrong play. I guess Pip still has 3. Oh, Pip has a second Unraveling. Okay, so yeah, so just gonna tap down then that makes sense. So plays the second Unraveling from hand, taps down Fluffy's land so they don't untap next turn, and Fluffy's creatures get -3/-0. So yeah, this is a real beating for Fluffy. I'm not sure what outs they have here. So for 6 mana, so generate 6 mana with Heart of Zedina. Use 3 of it to play Recall Forgotten Aeons. So 3 floating plus 3 more lands. And oh no. Singularity's Grasp X equals 1. I think that just ends this game. Yeah. And yeah, Fluffy's just going to concede. We're going to game 2. So from the sideboard, I think Artificer's Persuasion is probably coming in. Coldgrave does do work against Pip's deck, and I don't think there's any reason to I think there's definitely you can just side out I guess Bogsworn Club, because really the only creature Pip has is Intrepid. Isolated, you can turn off some of Pip's lands, but I don't know if it's as worth it. Imperial Siege will definitely, I think, be coming in. So I think actually I'm kind of torn because depending on how Fluffy wants to play this, most if not all of Fluffy's sideboard could come in here. Maybe 1 or 2 isolated, or and then 4 Imp Siege, all the Coldgraves, Artificer's Persuasion. Maybe Artificer's Persuasion less so because you really don't want to be holding up mana. This is more so for the combo decks that exist, but still. Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I think Coldgrave and Imp Siege for sure, and then Isolated and Artificer's Persuasion depends on how Fluffy wants to play this. Meanwhile, on Pip's end, yeah, I don't think Once Abandoned is coming in. It's very expensive. Stand Unassailable versus an aggro deck for sure. I think the Forged Singularity's Grasp is coming in for sure. Negate and Still the Pandemonium are for the control mirrors, so I don't think they'll be coming in. So just Singularity's Grasp and the Stand Unassailables. Probably out for, I'm not sure. Maybe some of the recalls plus Deadly Manipulation, because they're good, but you don't need that much recursion in this matchup. You just need to hit that one good card. Okay, so going into game 2, Fluffy appears to have played a Master of Tranquility. I guess Pip played a Shock Fetch, Search Nomad's Township, and then played Murmuring Falls from hand. Okay, has the Bogsworn Club. So now Master of Tranquility becomes a 5/1. So Pip has a Memento Mori, but Fluffy did side in the Artificer's Persuasion. So counters it, and this also buffs on Master of Tranquility. So swinging in for a massive 6 right here. And I guess what I was saying earlier about Fluffy wanting to tap out is technically true. But once they have a creature resolved, they don't really need to tap out as much since they just want to focus on keeping that one creature alive. Ooh, and hits an Exeunt off of the Seek Prophecy. But So the Master of Tranquility dies. But what I was saying is, since all of the Prowess cards are cheap or free, I guess it is trivial for Fluffy to keep up mana once they've resolved a creature. So it has a second Master of Tranquility here. And a third Master of Tranquility. Pip is dead next turn if they don't really have a way to answer this. Especially because the Master of Tranquilities have such high toughness. Singularity's Grasp is an instant though, so if Pip does have it, can wait for Fluffy to like flip the power and toughness of the Master of Tranquilities and then pay 3 mana, kill both of them, which would definitely be a problem. Also, Fluffy is down to 1 card in hand, so they might not even have a way to trigger Prowess on the Master of Tranquilities. So, Pip just passing, I guess doesn't have another land. Fluffy does have it, has Sage's Ashes. So now, this is potentially 10 damage. And if Fluffy has another way to trigger it, because Sage's Ashes could draw Fluffy into a second Prowess trigger, which would just kill. So yeah, he's going to activate Sage's Ashes, top it in exchange for drawing a card, which you're fine with topping it because it gives you another Prowess trigger next turn. Okay, has a second Bogshorn Club. So if Pip doesn't have interaction, this is lethal. And I think Pip's window for casting Singularity's Grasp was passed. They should have cast it in response to the Sage's Ashes, if anything. Because now they don't have a Singularity's Grasp X=2. So did Pip concede? Yeah, Pip conceded. We're going to a game 3. Wow. I really didn't think that Pip's deck had a chance against Pipsqueaks, but I guess if you just turbo it out and have a counterspell for some of their answers. I wonder what was in Pip's hand, though. So Fluffy on a Multi-6. I think this is worrisome. Like, for aggro decks, sometimes your entire set can be determined by the die roll at the start, because going second is such a beating. Pip does play Fungal Mire tapped, so that means that Pip doesn't have access to exit into turn 1. But Fluffy is just playing Magmatic Torrent, no turn 1 play. No turn 1 play is kind of worrisome. This is not the second game in a row, or actually it might be the third game in a row where Fluffy has just not had a turn 1 play as an aggro deck. And Pip now does have exit mana up. So Fluffy's going to crack the Magmatic Torrent. Not doing it before draws, I guess, indicates that Fluffy is trying to hope to draw into more lands. Might have a gas-heavy hand, but not many lands. Which, to be fair, you don't need a lot of lands, but then you do need, like, enough to be able to cast your stuff. So Storm Chaser Mage does have haste. So just going to swing for 1 with the Storm Chaser. So Pip just grabbing an island off of their Shock Fetch, and then playing a Flooded Morass from hand and passing. Notably, this is Singularity's Grasp X=1 mana, but a Storm Chaser Mage's big butt prevents that from being a problem. Has the Whistle Dragons, and Pip is letting it resolve. So that means Pip has either Memento Mori or Exit, or doesn't have any relevant interaction here. So going to play the Ornate Incense. That's 5 damage on board. So in response to swinging, Pip has Unraveling, going to give all of them -3/-0. So Pip doesn't take any damage. And Pip just plays a land and passes. Still doesn't have enough mana to be able to kill the Storm Chaser Mage pre-Prowess with Singularity's Grasp. Ooh, Master of Tranquility, okay. So this does seem a little bit difficult for Pip right now. Of course, Pip could just have like another Unraveling. Oh, and double Master of Tranquility. Yeesh. Pip saying thinking, might have a second Unraveling, counter the Master of Tranquility, tap down Fluffy. Yeah, has a second Unraveling. Oh, counter and shrink. Interesting. So I guess cares more about the potential 3 damage from the Storm Chaser plus Whistle Dragons than Pip cares about tapping down Fluffy. Okay, tapping 5, Singularity's Grasp, X equals 3. This kills the Ornate Incense and Storm Chaser Mage and Whistle Dragons, but Master Tranquility survives. And I think I agree with casting this at sorcery speed, because Fluffy's tapped out, which could be relevant for an Artificious Persuasion, and also doesn't have a way to turn on Prowess. Also, Fluffy's down to 2 cards in hand. It doesn't look like they have any way to trigger the Prowess on the Master Tranquility since they're just passing. Oh no, and now Pip has Deadly Manipulation. This means basically if Fluffy lets... Oh no, and Fluffy just plays a land and passes. Now that Pip can untap with Deadly Manipulation, I don't think there's a way for Fluffy to win this game. Because Pip can just, if they have a card in hand, just pay 1 blue, exile Singularity's Grasp, cast the Singularity's Grasp, X equals 2. Okay, has Bonesaw. Gonna pump it into a 5/1. Can also equip for the 6 damage. Yep, it's gonna equip. The thing is, I think, doesn't Pip also have an Exit Engrave? No, wait, Pip doesn't have an Exit Engrave this game. I do think Singularity's Grasp, X equals 2 is correct here. Oh, it's going to play Unraveling from hand. A third Unraveling, jeez. But Fluffy has the Artificer's Persuasion. Ah, but Pip has the Cursory Glance in response. So Pip wins the counter war. Oh no. And I think what happens here is, because, yeah, since power and toughness swaps are always applied last, it gives -3/0, but then that actually functions as -3 to toughness. So Master of Tranquility dies, because Magic is a weird game. So Pip also tapped down Fluffy's 3 lands and got to scry 2 and draw a card. Oh no, and has Intrepid. Searching up a Heart of Zadina like normal. I don't think that there's a way for Fluffy to come back from this. They're at 1 card in hand. Pip has a Deadly Manipulation. And Pip's also at 19 life. Okay, does have a Whistle Dragons, but then it doesn't matter since Pip can just block with Intrepid. And Pip has a Cursory Glance, so it doesn't even get to resolve. Okay, so Pip is going to animate Intrepid and swing in with it. I don't know what Fluffy could be holding out for. Maybe like double isolated, like isolated on Intrepid and then isolated on a Deadly Manipulation. Oh my god, Mastery of the Veil. This is the signature card, and for 16 life, Heart of Zadina, 1, 2, 3, and then generates 6 mana. I don't know how to count, so I don't know how that deals 16 damage, but I guess it does. So, yeah, wow. I thought it was just Fluffy was doomed because he didn't have anything, but they were just doomed because Pip had the kill. Anyways, good games to both players, but Pipsqueak on Sultai Heart Attack Control takes a 2-1 over Fluffy on Blue-Red Prowess Aggro. Until next time, this is Caillou signing off.